So today we are talking about hiring and the mistakes that people commonly make when hiring, which means that a lot of the business owners and leaders that I speak to um, sense that hiring is such a gamble and it puts them off. So I thought I would reveal some of the mistakes people make so you can avoid falling into those traps and feel more confident about hiring. So I know a number of you are actually in the process or about to hire or hire a first person or hire further people. So this should be very relevant to most of you. Right now. So let's start by thinking about what is the role of team in your business and why it is so important to get the hiring right. So most of you, maybe not all of you, are business owners on this webinar. And as an owner, or indeed a senior leader in your organization, you are typically worrying about three broad things. You're concerned about the team. It's your responsibility to get them working well and productively. You're also worried about the customers. Are they having a great experience? Are you delivering the experience that you want to for your customers, whatever that may be, or the product? And you're worrying about the business. You've got all that business management going on in the background. Have you got enough money to pay the bills? Are we growing according to plan and forecast and all those business things? So as an owner or senior leader, you've got a lot of things to worry about. And what I experience can be the first thing to go, whether in a corporate situation or an SME situation, is the first thing that drops is attention on the team. They feel like that's an internal one-to-one. I can let that slip because I've got a customer to deal with or a business situation to deal with. But that is a fast way to ending up on a bit of a hamster wheel. Because the reality is that your team are the biggest unlock to you having a far more balanced, orderly life in business. When you disproportionately focus on your team and they have got the knowledge they need, the support they need, the tools they need, they can deliver at their best. And they are the ones who look after the customers, either in terms of they're the ones producing whatever you're selling to your customers or delivering the service itself. So your team's role is directly or indirectly to deliver to your customers. When your team are equipped to do that, then your customers are going to get a great experience. And when you have happy customers, you retain them, they come back for repeat purchase, they refer you to others. Happy customers are the core to any business. So the happy customers will then support the business because they'll be doing your marketing for you, your repeat sales, etc. And the business can then look after you, the owner. So it's that virtuous circle, but as I've just described, it kicks off by having the right team in place. And which is where the hiring comes in, because if you don't start with the right folk in place, then you're certainly not going to have that team that you can rely on. So let's pause for a moment and think about who have you got in your boat rowing your business forwards. Now, those of you who are on our last webinar will recognize this slide. Nothing like doing a bit of recycling. But thinking about your business as a boat, we talk about everything you want to do makes the boat go faster. I'm concerned about who is on that boat making the boat go faster. And one of the things we look at are how engaged are your team? Are they truly engaged and proactive, thinking about the business, putting everything in mentally and physically into this business and their roles? Or are they just along for the ride, these unengaged people in the middle who are watching the scenery go past as you row along, not really putting in the effort, but not being damaging either. And then we've got our disengaged folk who are actively hijacking what's going on. They're spreading bad news, they're just a real negative bad apple in the business. And the proportions are shockingly accurate, I'm afraid. The UK, according to Gallup, now has its lowest ever engaged population, which is about, I think it's 10%, possibly 11 at the minute. It did get as high as 14, the giddy heights of 14% of the team being engaged on average, which is still shockingly low, but that was several years ago, and now we're at, let's say, 10, 11%. The US is a much higher percentage, so that the percentages do vary across the globe. Unfortunately, the UK is one of the lowest. I show this in our session today to help you understand the impact, because that disengaged, that bad apple, spreads their impact across your team. And time again, I talk to clients and they deal with the bad apple in their team, either upwards and improve them, or typically exit, or they leave of their own volition. And the phrase I hear time and time again is, I hadn't realized the scale of the impact. It's not just that, the impact on their role and their productivity, it oozes to the rest. In a way, unfortunately, it's far more powerful than the oozing of the engaged person to the rest. That happens a little bit as well. So what I also hear from leaders throughout my experience in corporate and in SME world is that leaders hold back from dealing with the bad apples in the team because they are fearful of getting someone better. It's like, well, is it better the devil you know than the devil you don't? And it's actually this fear of, can I replace them? Will I find them? The length of time it takes to get them on board, etc., that holds them back from dealing with the issue in front of them. And then when they have to, actually, that is far easier than they thought. So just take a moment. Have you in your team got any folk who are not fully pulling their weight? They are not pulling their all with full force. And even worse, have you got some who are disengaged, who actually, I want through this session to give you the confidence to actually deal with this, because it will be so much more productive for your business. So a number of things hold people back from getting on and hiring. One is the cost. It can be the cost of actually hiring, or the cost of having an additional employee or first employee. There is a lot of fear about going through a process, spending money on recruitment, and then getting a poor hire, ending up with somebody you're not happy with. And then if they leave, you've wasted that money. So have a think as we go through these. Is any of these actually something that is holding you back from doing your next recruitment? There might be a fear of employment law, particularly in the UK with our new employment rights law. It's getting a lot tighter. Now, my personal opinion is, if you are a great manager, it's still not an issue, but you need to manage your people properly. You might have had a bad experience. You're like, oh, and I've met a lot of small businesses, micro businesses, who've hired somebody without a solid process. It's not worked, and they've gone, I've tried hiring, it didn't work, I'm not doing it again. And that limits your business growth. A business can only grow so far with, one or two people in it, and then you need more. So if you've had a bad experience that's put you off, maybe you didn't, actually your process to find them wasn't the process it needed to be. And with a proper recruitment process, you could get a great one, or you would get a great one. Also, recently I was speaking to someone, they were concerned about actually bringing on staff and they're going to steal your IP or intellectual property, or they're going to learn what you do, steal your clients and set up on their own. Again, there's some documentation and legal stuff you can put around that. Well, there might be other fears. So I'll just take a breather here. Shout out. Anybody got any other things that hold you back from actually going and getting the people you need for your business? Have I covered them all? Okay. Let's crack on. So, just think as they're identifying it, then hopefully by the end of this session, if we haven't covered that off, then please shout it out in our questions at the end. And if you've got any questions or thoughts, just shout out and take yourself off mute and join and let me know. So what is the impact of having a great hire followed by or a poor hire? Let's have this off mute. Let's have some interaction. So shout out, what does a great hire do to your business?
Adds new skills.
Great. Brings new skills. Yes.
New energy.
What else? And energy. Yes. Cool. We've got 6 of you on the call.
Different thinking, different ideas, more creativity to the business.
Yes.
Thinking out the box.
Yes. Different thinking. Fundamentally, it adds capacity. Yeah. Adds capacity. It frees you up because you're going to, or it frees someone else up. It allows you to do higher value activities or greater value creating activities for your business, or it might allow someone else to. So a great hire is a real asset to your business. You've decided you need them, you've gone and got them, and they're delivering for you, fundamentally allowing the business to grow. What happens though when you make a poor hire?
Sucks up time.
Yeah. Time is the one I
hear. Those tasks yourself. You take over what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a huge time suck because you end up either in endless conversations with them trying to get them to do it correctly or in the way that you want or in the style, or you end up doing yourself and that impacts your time, or a bit of both. You're redoing work. Poor hire can also impact others' productivity, others' engagement. So there is a huge difference. How quickly, on average, do you think you know whether you've got a great hire or a poor hire?
Maybe in the first month, a new broom always sweeps clean, they say.
Yeah, I would say if you've got a great hire in a month. You're either super excited and telling all your colleagues, your business friends, etc. I can't believe it's so great. I've got so-and-so on board. Or you're just a bit mediocre about it. And I think that is the real telling thing. And that is super important as we move into our new employment rights in the UK. You need to be really thinking, is this a great hire or not? Because you've got to act a lot more quickly now if it's not. We have a great phrase, hire slow, fire fast. So if you made an error, and my goodness, we all do, just make sure you recognize it and move forward from it. So what are the mistakes I see? So mistake number 1 is actually delaying getting started. It might be delaying getting a team at all. So there's this whole fear of hiring somebody, the responsibility involved, the cost involved, etc. And so you are limiting your business growth to what one of you can do. So hiring a team at all can hold you back. And then what can happen is you wait until you absolutely can't cope at all, and something has to give. Now, that something has to give might be you almost hit burnout. It might be your customer experience starts being impacted and is less good, and you start losing clients, or they're less happy, or they're more issues coming back, which then takes you time. And then you get in this vicious circle that then you haven't got time to hire a team. So you want to be planful about when you hire to make sure there is the ROI on that person coming in, that there is the work for them to do, but don't leave it too late, because then it impacts your business negatively before they've even arrived. And you'll struggle to do a great recruitment process because you're struggling for time. So that delay can hurt. Expanding your team. So it's great, you've got a team and you're holding back, and corporates do this all the time. I've personal experience of this multiple times. We go into a hiring freeze. That costs the type. We put a hiring freeze on, then take forever to lift that freeze. It's a bit global, and you can't expand your team as it needs to, despite the fact that the economics are there now. Or you're unsure, you're in a bit of a boom, struggling to get through the work, need someone else, but you're like, is it going to stay or is the work going to go away? And then I'm left with this person. So people can delay expanding the team because they're not confident about the ongoing need there. And that lack of confidence is generally not backed up by any data. So if you're feeling that, do the maths, look at your business. How quickly is it growing? All things being equal, is the trajectory likely to keep there? How much business do you need to be able to cover the full cost of this extra team person? Because sometimes it's surprisingly little, and then everything on top is additional profit by their productivity, and you're missing out on that. So look at the timing for expanding your team. And also, again, you can leave it so I've also seen people leave it too late. All the rest of the team are covering the work of the missing person, the role that you needed to expand into, and then they're off with stress or burnout or whatever, or they get fed up and leave. And then you've got an even bigger problem. So just watch out for the impact of delaying expanding the team. And then finally, backfilling a team member. This is the craziest one of all, I think, is you've got a team, somebody resigns, and then I see it time and time again, people wait like a month to start backfilling that team member. Or if that team member's only on a month's notice, they're like waiting 2 weeks. It's like, if you want to have a minimal gap between one leaving and the next joining, it's going to take you a minimum of a month to find somebody, and then the likelihood is they've got notice to work. So you're really talking 2 months. So the longer you delay getting going on backfilling, the longer that gap is. And then that gap is an opportunity cost of business that you can't take on because you haven't got it. It's a stress cost for the rest of the team because they're covering, or you're covering. So if you've got a team member, you're clear you need to backfill in exactly the same way, then get on and do it really quickly, so that you minimize that hole further down. So mistake number one I see is delaying getting started, which means it just puts additional stress on you and other team members, and it puts a brake on the business growth. Mistake number two is not looking broadly enough. And this is in 2 dimensions, really. Firstly, looking for a very, very specific makeup of your new employees. You're very clear about exactly what skills they've got to have. You want them sort of with all the skills to do the job. You want them to have come from the sector you're in. They've got to be a perfect cultural match, and they've got to be able to come in and do the job great from day one. Now, from a business point of view, I get that. That would be ideal. It's our most efficient way of bringing somebody on board. The challenge is, when we look at that specifically and narrowly, what does the individual get out of it? I can safely say in my career, I have never taken on a job where I could do the whole thing from day one. And I wouldn't. Because those super engaged people we want to bring into our organizations, they want personal growth. They're moving job to move forwards. They're not moving job to do exactly what they were doing in their existing job. So they're not going to come to you if they've already got all of those skills, unless there's some other reason why they need to leave that organization, which of itself can sometimes be a bit concerning. So I really challenge you to be very clear on, yes, there's some core skills they need to have to be able to be useful to you and do the core job. But there's also some things that you can afford for them to learn in your organization, in your role. And be clear, what are those that they can learn with you? And what do they absolutely need to come with? What's a close enough sector that they've got enough knowledge and awareness of your industry, but it just allows you to fish in a bigger pool, as I call it. And the second aspect of not being broad enough is the marketing of your job. And I say that word very, very deliberately. We need to market the job. Recruitment is a big piece of marketing. You need as many people as many candidates to see your opportunity, to have the choice to apply for it. So thinking that you're going to get the best person from just advertising it on your website. If I'm a job seeker, I am not going onto every single organization's website, finding their career page to see if they happen to have a job that I can do available. That would just be so time consuming. If you are the lead organization in your sector, then possibly somebody might look there, but largely you're not going to get any traffic. Equally, I hear, we'll just put it on our Facebook, we'll advertise on our Facebook channel. Then it's just, you're just showing up in front of random people. You're not in front of people who are actually looking for a role. So you might get some people, but you're not going to get it's not where the concentration of people who are looking for a job are looking. Where are those people looking? They're looking on the job boards. They'll be looking on LinkedIn. They'll be looking in classified adverts, depending on where you're at. If you're say for a plumber client I have, it's their great place to hire from is putting a notice in the plumbers merchant, because guess what? All the plumbers are going to the plumbers merchant to get their stuff. They've got a notice board there. That's a great place. There's loads of plumbers going past there. So don't limit yourself to a few. This is where you want to go broad. You want to capture and be in front of as many people as possible who could be interested in your role. So this is an interesting one. I had fun with AI on this image. Thinking that you are pulling the strings on this process. Now, the job market has changed a little bit. It's definitely much more, much easier now from an employer perspective. As we came out of the pandemic, the couple of years after that, it was absolutely an entirely candidate market. Now it is probably more of an employer market overall. However, if you want the best people, which we do, there is still a shortage of great people, and they get the pick of the jobs. So thinking that you're going to dictate how this process is going to run entirely, that you're going to have it exactly as it suits you, and you're going to make them jump through loads of different hoops, and they're going to happily jump through them all, you're in cloud cookie land. That is not going to be happening. You're going to lose them, quite frankly. So yes, we want to get the information we need to make a great hiring decision. We need to do it efficiently and in a way that works for our candidates. So it's absolutely key that we are candidate centric. because the great people are still getting multiple offers. And you have to go through your process quickly. Once they apply, you're on a timeline versus all the other jobs they've applied for. And bizarrely, candidates actually don't have a lot of confidence in themselves, I've discovered. So once they've got a job offer, their confidence to sit on that for their preferred job to come through with their offer a week later, they find that exceedingly difficult. They've got a job offer, they want to say yes, they want to move on. And their fear is that if they wait for your offer to come along and they don't get it, they'll have lost the one that they've already got. That bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So, so true for candidate psychology. So actually, you are not in charge of pulling the strings here. Yes, you need to design your process, etc. But the great candidates are the ones that are pulling the strings, in my experience, or you need to be thinking like that. Mistake number 4, believing candidates. Now, I'm being controversial here, but a lot of innocent hiring managers believe what the candidates write and believe what the candidates say. And this isn't all deliberate, but be aware, in these days, who writes a lot of the CVs? AI. Yep. And you can tell a lot of the time. So there are AI templates, and it's absolute fiction for what the person's actually got. Also, there are, career support people who will encourage them how to write, and you don't get the true person, I feel, in that sense coming through. So, and people do lie on their CVs. It's quite interesting. I sometimes often check their CV versus their LinkedIn profile, because effectively LinkedIn is a CV. And it's surprising how often the two do not correspond. The timings don't, or the organizations will have missed out some jobs. So it's interesting to see what they write. I'm actually more interested in the document itself, because that tells you about it. Have you got good, if you need somebody to, if you're looking for a social media person, somebody's going to write on behalf of your business, you want to check that they've got great English, they've got capital letters, full stops, punctuation, etc. You can tell that from the CV. You don't need them to say, I am great at English writing. You can see because they've given you a document. If they haven't taken the time and attention to make sure it's perfect, then I don't want them in my team. Equally, believe what they say. And a lot of that is because how they answer the questions that they are asked. So please avoid the mistake of asking what I call hypothetical questions. These are the questions when you say, what would you do in XYZ situation? And you present a problem and you say, what would you do? And really listen to your language, because people use that surprisingly frequently. Sorry, I've just got a reboot going on here very inconveniently. So instead, you want to be asking, what have they done? Because when you ask her, what would you do? You can almost see them. If you look at their body language, their eyes will look upwards and they will start thinking what they think they would do. You don't have a clue if they would actually do what they do. They don't even know if they do what they're saying they do in that situation, because they're just thinking it up. And that is such unhelpful information. It's not anything to ground your recruitment decision on at all. So be careful about the questions you ask in terms of what kind of answer you get, and make sure there's none of those hypothetical questions going in there. So you want to double check, as I say, you can cross check with LinkedIn, do they tally? When you take references up, having offered, still cross-check. Are they in the role that they said they were in? Is it the same job title, etc.? You can cross-check their academic qualifications by contacting if that's important to you and you're relying on the fact that that was their degree or that was their PhD topic or something. You can check that with the institutions. So do some good due diligence there. Mistake number 5, offering too soon. So in my little analogy here, it's like, asking someone to marry you before you've actually established a good enough relationship to expect a yes. So this can be offering after one interview. So I won't ask for hands up here. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but have you offered a job after just doing one interview with the candidate? For me, that's one meeting. It's probably an hour long, one instance, and you're going to offer them a job in your business and invest in all that time to train them, onboard them, put them in front of your clients, whatever it is, access to, company confidential information, and you're going to do that on the back of 1 hour interview. That's not a great decision. It's not a great decision for you to make after that time. And actually, it's difficult for them to make a decision that you're the right place to be. Not much better than that is the offering, I'm being a bit cheeky here, after one interview that's done twice. And you're going, Helen, what on earth do you mean there? I mean, one person interviews them and then they come back for a second interview with a second person in your organization, but they ask the same questions. They go through the CV interview, in which case you've got 2 people who've gained the same information independently. You're not much the wiser. The candidate's not learned that much more other than they have met a second person, so it is slightly better. But when you're honest with yourself, the number of times a candidate goes through the same interview with different people, it's not a great experience for them. Because they're like, why didn't they just talk to the other person who's already interviewed me? Why did I have to come in again? Even if it's on Zoom, why did I have to give you another hour? And the danger with doing these, or if you make the interview all one way, again, that playing God, it's about me, I need to get the information I need. Part of the process, the selection process needs to include the candidate getting to know you and having the information they need to decide if they want to come and join you. Because remember, the best candidates are going to have more than one choice. So there's no point in offering a job until you have given a candidate the information they need, the experience they need to decide if they want to come and join you. It really is a two-way process. Oh, I thought I had a little two-way process there. I don't. So you need to make it a two-way process to make sure that they have got that sense that they want to join you. So don't offer before you've got to that point. So as I was writing my 5 mistakes, I actually thought that's not enough, there's more. So you've got bonus mistake 1, which is not setting clear expectations about what the experience is going to be like and what you need from it. You know, are you clear in your selection process about what the culture is in your business? How people are with you? Because back to the beginning, earlier point about, you know, let's broaden our remit. Let's think more broadly about the kind of people who can come in and do this job. Yes, absolutely, you can learn skills on a job. And as a manager, that's relatively simple to train them. What you cannot do, and I've seen people try, you cannot, it's exceedingly difficult, shall we say, is to change somebody's value system to match yours. So if you have a cultural mismatch, that is very unlikely to change. And it's just going to be an unpleasant experience for all parties, and it's unlikely to be successful. So the only way you can both decide if there is a cultural match is if you talk about it, yeah? Are you clear on, what are the behaviors? So we're talking behaviors, the standards, what's the dress standard? How many times are they in the office, remote? When you're remote, what's the standard? Some of these things will absolutely be covered in induction and the onboarding once they join, but you need to give enough of this in your process so that you can see if that's okay with them or not. There's no point in them accepting the job and then going, well, I can only come into the office 1 day a week when the standard for everybody is 3 days a week. You've got an issue from the start. And overall expectations. How quickly do you expect them to be up and running? What's the performance expectations, top level of the role? So really be clear, what top line, what does this role holder in this role need to contribute to be a positive investment for you? Get clear in that in your mind, because it's going to be really difficult for them to deliver that if you haven't shared that. So make sure you're clear about expectations, and they are too. And my bonus mistake too is being cheap about the whole process. So if you want to catch the best fish in the pool, you need to be using the right equipment. We need to be advertising in the right place. Yes, that might mean you have to pay for an advert. But if you're paying 300 quid to get across a broad range of recruitment portals and boards, which means you're going to get 5 times the candidates, you're giving yourself 5 times the chance of finding a top employee. So invest time and, if necessary, money. There probably will be some money. It doesn't have to be a lot. I'm not a fan of recruitment agencies because these days they're doing pretty much what you can do. And you're paying a whack of money to do that. Sometimes you do need to search. If it's very, very niche, then you are going to have to get somebody to search them out. And the other thing I see is people want a top performer with the skills and sector experience, etc., and then they're going to pay low to median salary. If you want to get a top employee, let's not argue over an extra, 500,000, 2,000 on their salary. I promise you the return you'll get from somebody who is worth that bit more and demanding that bit more, and they are the great person, you know that because you've run a very thorough process, you are going to get a return in spades on that extra 1,000, 2,000 you have to put on their salary. So I'm not saying, I know, there's cost of employment, it's salary, and everything in salary then gets multiplied by your tax and your national insurance and any bonus you've got there, etc. I get that. But often for that tiny bit more, you get a whole whack more productivity by getting that top quality candidate. So don't go through this whole process, choose your person, and then start nitpicking over some tiny little thing. It doesn't set the relationship up well. And my experience is you seldom delight anybody with salary, but you can definitely turn them off. But all the science says salary is only 10% of a decision to join. 90%, they're going to be deciding based on their research on your organization, their experiences they've gone through your process, and the opportunity that provides. So what are my top tips as we go through all of this? Firstly, Only offer someone a job if you feel truly excited about them joining. And I use that word really deliberately. If you're feeling a bit so-so about it, you're probably only going to be disappointed. I want you to feel, wow, I can't believe I found this person. We're so lucky to have them coming. They're going to be able to do so much for us. That's the feeling you want. If you're not feeling that, go again. When you compromise on quality, it seldom works out well. Look for evidence, real hard evidence. And if you do a thorough process, there's lots of places to see evidence of these skills and attitudes that you're looking for in terms of what's their emailing, messaging, etc. to you, what's in the CV, which we can take with a pinch of salt, as we've discovered. What are they actually telling you in the interview? What do you see for yourself? What behavior do you see when they're with you or on the Zoom? So hard evidence is really powerful, but don't ignore your gut. So notice if you're feeling there's something here, it just doesn't feel right. There might be something that isn't feel right. What I say there is then look, be aware. So, okay, I've noticed my gut. What is it that is making me feel like this? And almost put that analysis hat on if you can, whilst you're still in the process, and see what is it they're saying? Is it something about their eye contact? Is it what they're doing? What is it that's just? Because there will be some telltale signs. And when you've seen that, you can then go and explore it. So don't, if you feel yourself seeing something in your gut, maybe you're starting to make some assumptions, then test those assumptions. Use some different questions or exercises or whatever you need to do to test those assumptions. And my last top tip here is be respectful. Be respectful to the candidate, their life, where they're at. Be reasonable. They might not be able to drop everything to come in that one slot you've given them for an interview. They might need a little choice. And then finally, really important is be yourself, because they're assessing you as their next boss, their organization. And if you put on an act, consciously or unconsciously, you want to look really great, but then that's not who you are when they join. They've got this big disconnect. And if actually they don't like the you yourself, then they're going to leave. So it didn't achieve anything in the first place. So do be yourself, because that's who they need to see. And as I said before, I knew I had this somewhere. It is a two-way process for them to choose and you to choose. So how to get it right? Enough of all the mistakes. Make sure you have clearly defined the role. You know what you want them to do. You know what the role needs to achieve. You know what's going to give it its return on investment for your business. And you've defined the recruitment kite, which is my tool for defining what the person needs to have. So you're very clear about needs versus wants. Be candidate-centric, because ultimately they're the one making the final decision, yes or no, to your offer. Be clear about what you're offering. Now you're going to say, of course I know I'm offering this job. You are offering a job, but you're actually offering an experience. What is your employment experience? So be clear about the culture you're offering. Be clear about the future prospects you're offering. Be clear about the client experience you're offering, as well as, of course, of benefits and salaries. What are the development opportunities? So a lot of business leaders, I find, underplay the broad offering. And if you don't cover the whole experience that you're offering, the only information a candidate has to decide whether to join you is the salary, and it has a disproportionately high impact. If they're really clear about the whole experience that is on offer and that's what they want, then the salary is much less of a part of their decision. So make sure you gather evidence throughout the process. It's going to help your thinking. It's going to enable you to make a much better decision. And it also protects you against any claim anybody might choose to bring against you in terms of any discrimination. It's very, very rare that happens, but if you've actually got evidence and notes that you've got throughout the process, that will stand you in very good stead. But it is also facts that you can rely on to make your decision. And so much weight is on getting a good process, you get the right information to make the right decision. So once you've designed a process, and we call it a deselection process because you're not selecting it, the candidates are almost deselecting themselves as they go through it. This thing enables you to have a process you can repeat every time you need to hire. So it's absolutely worth investing in getting it right first time, because then that's something you can use time and time again. And my last tip is you've gone through all this effort to attract and then select your next employee. Please look after them once they've said yes. I can't tell you the number of times especially in corporate actually, I used to work in HR, sorry for those who don't know, in large corporates like PepsiCo and Diageo, and new employees starting, and then the line manager goes, "Oh, I'm not in that day." What kind of experience is that if your line manager isn't there to welcome you? And they end up floating around, not having a clue what they're doing on that first day. Awful experience. So make sure you've got a proper onboarding plan. You've got a way of nurturing them through those first few weeks, and that you're guiding them into being the employee you want them to be. They will need a bit of course correction. They come from a different culture. They need your help to adapt to your specific culture. It could still be along the same principles and values, but there'll be nuances. There always are between organizations, and you need to help them feel comfortable in there and adopt those. So, how can I help you get this right? Well, I have 3 options here. The DIY option, do it yourself. The DWY option, the do it with you option, and the DFY, the do it for you option. So the DIY option is, we have a fantastic process for doing the recruitment, making sure you get all the information you need that really engages the team. And in the instances where I'm aware of the outcome, we've got a 90+% instance of the candidates accepting when offered. So really high acceptance rate because it's candidate centric. They want the job. So really easiest way to access this is simply buy the book. Instant Team Building. It's on Amazon and all other places you can buy books. Chapter 6. It's not going to take you long to read it. Read it, follow it, digest it internally, and deliver it. And you will get a great team selection process, and end up with a fabulous new employee. We do like to do things differently. It does involve a group selection evening, which a lot of people go, ooh, the recruiters, the hiring managers are like, ooh, I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. And it works absolutely beautifully. So often what we do in the end is a done with you option, which is where I can coach you through doing this for your first time. So I will hold you through. I will help you write your advert so it's appealing, get it advertised in the cheapest way, but to a broad audience, so it's good value. We're getting in the breadth we need. Make sure you've got a great questions and we've got a process that is relevant to the job that you're looking to hire into, and that creates that desire for the job for all your candidates, so that you know that the candidate you offer is going to accept. And going through this, we build all those templates specific to your business so that you can then use them on your own afterwards. You know what you're doing, you're confident, off you go. You can hire on your own all the rest of the roles that are needed in your organization. And then very occasionally, I have done the done for you option, which typically, if somebody needs to hire a senior manager or a general manager for their business, I will then run the process for you, involving the business owner in the key interviews. So they are there to make the decision. They do make the decision, but everything else is done for them at all the early stages. So those are the 3 ways I can help you on the recruitment side. Because it's so timely, I just wanted to share with you, we are starting our Team Masterclass program later in March. This is our program where we train you, because now you've got a team member or more team members, or maybe somebody's going to be coming in to lead a team. How do you get trained in how to run a team? Because you might have heard the phrase, people join an organization, they leave their manager. Largely because the manager was never trained how to manage. So you've gone through all this work to hire your person. We really don't want them leaving you. That would be a waste of time and money. So we run a team masterclass. It's 12 weeks, 1.5 hours every week, and you will install our team management system in that 12 weeks. It's what I call a learn-do program. You learn something in the week, put it into practice in your team, come back the next week, learn it, question how you're going to do it. And so 12 weeks later, you've had 12 weeks of doing different things with your team, putting into place different strong practices that mean you have a team that is fully accountable for what they need to do. They know what they're needing to do. They're supported. So do let me know if you're interested in joining that. I can speak to you more about that. So next steps. You've dedicated an hour to find out how to hire more. So what I suggest you do next is review what you're already doing. If you've hired before, what have you done before? Given the mistakes we've covered and the top tips you now know, where do you need to improve what you've done before? I highly recommend you invest time and or money to learn how to do this properly, because you only need to learn it once and then you just repeat every time you hire. You will get that investment back tenfold in having the right team that is supporting your business. And because I really want to get value, you have value from this session, then as always, I offer a pro bono session with me afterwards. So if you've got a situation you're facing at the moment, a hiring situation, you need to get your first person, you need to get the next person. You've listened and you've gone, oh, golly, there's some stuff we need to do differently. Then please, let's get you in my diary. So I've reserved some times for you. So quickest off the button gets the slot. So have a look. Which of these slots works for you? Pop it in the chat, and then I will confirm that with you via a diary invite. So choose a time slot, write it in there, and we can have a one-on-one discussion about your particular situation. So I can guide you appropriately. So we have got, I reckon, 3 minutes till we're back on the hour. So any questions that I can help you with? Anything that you would like to explore a bit more? Yeah, Deidre.
The slide before, sorry, your head was in the way, so I couldn't see the price.
The
one before that?
Team Masterclass, yes, it's 400. It's basically £100 a week for 12 weeks, but we tend to invoice it £400 a month for 3 months.
Okay, brilliant, thank you.
Sorry about my head. Any other questions?
Me, please, Helen.
Yes.
So you were talking earlier about having the more than one interview situation. Obviously, in a small business, that's hard because it will be you doing multiple interviews. So how
Yep.
would you suggest to then structure each of those interviews? Because like you said, you don't want to do two interviews, the same interview twice. So is there a way that you would structure them differently? Like the first one, you talk about their CV, and then the second one, what would you then do?
Exactly, you do. So firstly, once you've looked at your recruitment kite, you know the competencies and experience that you need in this new person to have. So what I want to do is see evidence that they've got those skills. So I'm going to ask questions. You might have a CV question. I do love to know why they've left and why they've joined all the different jobs. Then a separate interview, I would do competencies. So I'd explore where is the evidence of those different competencies. I also like to see them actually do something. So a little test or assessment that is totally relevant to the job they're applying for. So that is designed per job type. To see them do it real life. And nowadays I do like to do it real life because then you can check there's no AI involved. Unless in real life they'd be using AI. In which case then it doesn't matter. You want to make it as relevant to real life work as possible. So those are three potentially different visits. For senior roles, I'll also do a psychometric assessment, quite likely, leadership competency or something like that. Again, it gives me some indicators where I might want to then probe. So I might do an interview on the back of the output of a psychometric assessment to probe any particular strengths, probe any particular lower scores, to see is there enough there? Is that an issue for me? Does that help?
Yep. Perfect.
I would also, if there's more than one in the business, I would also encourage them to meet some other people in the team because it gives them a better sense of the culture.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Thank you.
Yeah, Deirdre?
so with my situation, I'm wondering if you could help. So in my situation, would you be able to help me find out if I'd need an actual person coming into the company full time, or would it be best to look for a freelancer or contractor?
That is another good question, because the great thing now is you don't need a whole person. You don't have to go from nothing to 40 hours a week. You can either hire someone as an employee part-time. I've literally had a client hire somebody on 10 hours a week, or you can hire a freelancer. And you don't even need to decide which is which initially, because actually if you put a job out there for 10 hours a week, as we did with the client, we had a lot of applications from freelancers, which is fine, because if you go for a freelancer, quite frankly, you want to operate a robust process to choose them as well. Not all freelancers are good at what they do, I hate to say, but it's true.
Yeah.
So you need to be as rigorous about selecting your freelancers as you do your employees. And also now we've got the whole option of, do you want an offshore employee or a in-person local employee?
So many choices.
Yeah, so you do have to evaluate what do you need, and what's best.
Thank you.
Good. Any other questions? Perfect. Well, we're on the hour, so thank you so much for joining us. And book in your slot, and we can talk about any specific situations that you've got. So have a great Friday, have a great weekend when you get there, and yeah, see you soon.